Okay, let's talk about car prices right now because we know they're still pretty high, especially with the interest rates as high as they are. And if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, it may be out of reach.
A tsunami of supersized American-style pickup trucks are hitting Melbourne roads as sales reach record levels, but some fed-up drivers say the vehicles have no place down under.
Ford just got outplayed. While Chevy and Ram launched 0% deals on new models, Ford's dealers are drowning in unsold 2025 F-150s. Prices are slipping fast, and buyers are waking up to how badly the blue oval misread the market. The injustice? Loyal Ford owners paid record sticker prices just months ago. Now those same trucks are $15,000 to $20,000 cheaper. Stick around, because I'll break down which trims are crashing hardest, which rivals are winning, and how to use that shift to your advantage. The lot that told the truth. Walk onto any Ford dealership lot right now and you'll see the same apocalyptic scene. Row after row of 2025 F-150s gleaming under the sun, untouched. Not dozens, hundreds. Small-town dealers have 80 to 100 unsold trucks gathering dust. These aren't lease returns. These are brand new, fresh from the factory F-150s that nobody wants. And Ford? They've stopped building 2026s altogether. While Chevrolet floods dealerships with 2026 Silverados and Ram's lots overflow with next year's models, Ford has quietly pumped the brakes on production. A full stop. Because they can't sell what they've already built. Dealer lots have become open-air warehouses for trucks priced like luxury sedans, sitting in silent rows like an automotive graveyard. At J.C. Lewis Ford, a small dealer representing thousands across America, the reality is impossible to ignore. Every angle reveals another Platinum Edition, another Tremor, another Lariat with a window sticker that makes your eyes water. The front row, F-150s. The back lot, F-150s. Even the overflow area is packed. This isn't a regional problem or a dealer ordering mistake. This is a 2 million truck disaster that's about to reshape the entire automotive industry. And Ford's solution? It's so reckless, so desperate, that it makes the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis look cautious by comparison. But understanding the scale requires looking at what made these trucks unsellable in the first place. The price tag nobody can afford. The average F-150 on dealer lots today costs $78,000. For a truck that 3 years ago would have cost $45,000 fully loaded, for a vehicle that blue-collar America built its identity around. Ford has transformed it into a luxury purchase requiring a six-figure household income just to qualify. And it's not just the high-trim models. Walk through any dealer lot looking for something under $60,000 and you'll find maybe 2 trucks. 2 out of nearly 100 sitting there. The affordable STX Supercab with the basic package? $49,000. No bed liner? No wheel well liners, no power running boards. The Platinum Editions, and every lot is drowning in them, start at $79,000 and climb past $85,000. The Tremors? $85,000 standard. The Raptors? Try $110,000 for a pickup truck. Here's where the injustice becomes crystal clear. These aren't hand-built Raptors with bespoke engineering. These are mass-produced trucks with leather seats and fancier headlights. Ford didn't suddenly start using premium materials. They just raised prices because the market was hot, because everyone told them the gravy train would never stop. Except it did stop. Now Ford is staring at billions in inventory that won't move at current prices and can't be discounted without destroying residual values. If you bought an F-150 in 2023 at inflated prices, your truck just lost 30% of its value overnight. Then came the competition that destroyed everything. Before we dive deeper, hit subscribe and join the insiders who see these numbers first. You'll get daily market proofs, price maps, and OTD targets the dealers don't post. The 0% massacre. While Ford was congratulating itself for holding prices, General Motors and Stellantis executed a coordinated market assault that left Ford's strategy in ruins. GM didn't just release 2026 Silverados early, they flooded dealerships. Not a trickle, a tsunami. Drive past any Chevrolet dealer right now, and 2026 models outnumber 2025's 3-to-1. And they're being sold at 0% financing for 72 months with decent credit. Ram did the same with the 1500 lineup. Stellantis saw the writing on the wall and decided the old playbook was dead. Move inventory, cut deals, get newer models on the ground before Ford could react. While Ford sits on mountains of unsold 2025s, Ram dealers are moving 2026s at pace that makes Ford's numbers look pathetic. This isn't competition, it's coordinated execution. Here's what makes this devastating. When a buyer walks onto a Ford lot and sees a $78,000 F-150 with standard financing at 9%, then walks to Chevrolet and finds a comparable Silverado at 0% on a newer model, that's not a sale Ford loses. That's a customer Ford loses forever. The tribal warfare between Ford and GM loyalists has raged for generations. But loyalty has a price ceiling. When that ceiling is $20,000 in interest payments, even die-hard Ford fans start questioning everything. The "built Ford tough" marketing rings hollow when built into debt becomes reality. Ford's response? They kept prices high, kept believing F-150 loyalty would outlast mathematics. It didn't, and that miscalculation forced them into something truly dangerous. The desperation move. Ford's new strategy isn't a pivot, it's a betrayal of everyone who ever trusted the Blue Oval. Starting immediately, Ford Credit has opened financing to subprime borrowers for 2025 F-150s. Not slightly below prime customers who had one late payment. We're talking credit scores of 580, 600, 620. People who've been systematically denied financing on expensive vehicles for very good mathematical reasons. And Ford is rolling out the red carpet. The announcement came buried in corporate speak, expanding financing options to reach broader customer bases and tailored credit solutions. Translation: if you've got a pulse and a pay stub, Ford will put you in a $78,000 truck at 18 to 24% interest. 24% interest on a $78,000 loan means monthly payments around $2,500 for 6 to 7 years. That's not a truck payment, that's a mortgage in most American cities. Here's what makes this insidious. Ford knows exactly what will happen. Their analytics teams have modeled it 1,000 times. They know subprime borrowers purchasing vehicles at these prices have default rates approaching 60% within 2 years. They know the repos are coming. They know families will be destroyed, and they're doing it anyway. Because Ford Credit isn't Ford Motor Company on paper. The loans get packaged, risk gets distributed, the truck gets sold, quarterly numbers look good. And when repos flood auction houses in late 2026, it becomes a market problem rather than a Ford problem. But the true scale of damage goes beyond quarterly earnings, the payment that swallows everything. Let's talk about what 24% interest actually means when applied to human lives. You're a 38-year-old electrician in Tennessee. You've been driving a 2015 F-150 with 260,000 miles. The transmission's slipping. Rust is winning. You need a truck for work, not want, need, because your livelihood depends on hauling tools to job sites. Your credit score is 605, not from irresponsibility, but because medical debt from your daughter's emergency surgery cratered your finances. You walk onto a Ford lot, and for the first time in years, someone says yes. Yes, they'll finance you. Yes, you can get that 2025 F-150 Lariat. The payment, $2,400 monthly. The dealer says it's market rate for your credit profile. You don't know buyers with better credit pay $800 less for the same truck. You just know someone's finally giving you a chance. So you sign. That $2,400 payment represents 47% of your take-home income. Financial advisors say vehicle payments should never exceed 15%. You're at 3 times that threshold. After the truck payment, you've got $800 left for rent, utilities, food, insurance, fuel, your kids' school expenses. You're drowning from day one. Within 3 months, you're juggling credit cards. By month 6, you're choosing between the truck payment and groceries. By month 9, you're 2 payments behind. By month 12, a tow truck appears at 5:30 in the morning. Your work truck, your livelihood, disappears. Ford wins either way. Here's the part that makes this truly unconscionable. Even after the repo, Ford wins. They've collected 12 months of payments at predatory rates, roughly $29,000 from you, of which only $4,000 went toward principal. They repossess a truck you've maintained immaculately because it's your work vehicle. They auction it for $55,000, then they come after you for the deficiency balance, the difference between what you owed and what they recovered. You lost your truck, lost your credit, and you still owe Ford $30,000. Then they sold that repossessed truck to another buyer, starting the cycle again. This isn't Ford's first rodeo with subprime disasters. They just hoped you'd forgotten. Rewind to 2005 through 2007. Ford Motor Credit was writing subprime loans with the same fervor we're seeing today. Inventory piling up, market share slipping, shareholders demanding growth. So they loosened standards and watched quarterly numbers climb. Then 2008 happened. Ford Motor Credit's delinquency rate hit 11%. Repos, flooded auctions, cratering used values. Ford loyalty took a generational hit as former customers who'd lost trucks swore they'd never buy another Ford product. The company barely survived, and here they are again, running the exact same play. But this time, there's a darker layer. In 2008, subprime loans were secured against relatively stable vehicle values. If you financed a $40,000 truck and defaulted, Ford could recover $32,000 to $35,000 at auction. Today's math is catastrophic. Ford is financing $78,000 trucks in a market where used F-150 values are already collapsing. The repo tsunami building. While Ford Credit quietly opened subprime lending in late 2024 on an experimental basis, those early loans are now approaching 12 to 18 months. The default rates, 47%, not cumulative over the loan life. 47% within the first 18 months. Industry sources speaking anonymously revealed Ford Credit has already reclaimed over 8,000 trucks from subprime borrowers since January 2025. Those vehicles are being held in overflow lots, quietly funneled to auctions, sold at catastrophic losses. But because the program was small scale, the numbers haven't triggered public alarm until now, because the program just went nationwide. The floodgates opened. If 8,000 repos resulted from a limited trial, the math on national rollout is apocalyptic. Let's model this. If Ford finances 50,000 trucks to subprime borrowers over 6 months, conservative given their inventory crisis, and defaults track at 47%, that's 23,500 repos hitting markets between now and mid-2026. 23,500 F-150s flooding auctions simultaneously. Here's what happens to used truck values when that wave hits. Catastrophic collapse. Every F-150 currently on the used market loses 20 to 35% of value overnight, because auction houses will have hundreds of repos available constantly, and buyers know distressed inventory when they see it. This isn't just Ford's problem anymore. If you own any half-ton truck right now, your equity just evaporated. The bailout. They're already planning. Here's the revelation buried in Ford's strategy documents. They know this subprime program is unsustainable. They've modeled the repo wave, they've calculated the losses, and they're doing it anyway because the real play isn't automotive retail, it's a bailout. Look at the timeline. Ford floods markets with subprime loans through late 2025 and 2026. Repos cascade in late 2026 and early 2027. Ford Credit's balance sheet craters under unsustainable defaults. By mid-2027, Ford Motor Credit faces insolvency-level damage. Then they go to Washington. The pitch writes itself. Ford Credit's failure would trigger systemic collapse in auto lending, destroy consumer confidence, eliminate transportation credit access for millions. Economic ripple effects would be catastrophic. We need emergency stabilization. It's 2008 again, but this time Ford engineered the crisis deliberately. The brilliant and deeply cynical part, it works regardless of political administration. Conservative politicians face pressure from auto workers and manufacturing states to save jobs. Progressive politicians face pressure from consumer advocates to prevent further exploitation of predatory lending victims. Everyone has political cover to support the bailout. Ford emerges with losses socialized, inventory moved, market position stabilized. The taxpayer gets the bill. Here's proof this strategy is already in motion. Ford has quietly lobbied congressional committees on automotive credit market stability since early 2025. They've commissioned think tank studies on systemic risk in transportation financing. This isn't reactive scrambling. This is coordinated preparation for controlled demolition, where Ford walks away unscathed. Real families Ford destroyed. These aren't statistics. These are your neighbors. Meet Sarah Chen, 34-year-old nurse from Ohio. Single mother of 2, credit score 615. After a divorce financially gutted her 3 years ago, she needed reliable transportation to reach hospital shifts 45 minutes away. Her 2012 Explorer was burning oil and throwing engine codes weekly. When Ford Credit approved her for a $64,000 F-150 at 22% interest, it felt like salvation. The payment was $1,900 to $50 monthly. Her take-home pay? $4,200 monthly. She's currently sleeping in that F-150 in a hospital parking lot 3 nights weekly because she can no longer afford both truck payment and rent. Her kids stay with her sister. Child Protective Services has been notified. The repo is coming any day. Ford got their sale. Or meet Marcus Williams, 41-year-old construction contractor contractor in Texas. His business depends on hauling equipment, but his 6-year-old F-250 died after transmission exploded. Credit score 598, damaged by business loans he couldn't repay during COVID. Ford Credit approved him a 23.9% for a $71,000 Lariat, $2,300 monthly for 84 months. He's defaulted on contracts because he can't afford fuel after making truck payments. Lost 3 clients. His business is collapsing. The truck will be repossessed within weeks, and his contracting license is at risk because he won't fulfill commitments without transportation. These stories aren't outliers. They're the norm, multiplying daily as Ford's subprime program reaches terrible scale. Dealers are quietly panicking. Behind closed doors, Ford dealers are having very different conversations than the ones happening in sales meetings. Dealer principals nationwide are watching this subprime explosion with growing horror, not purely from ethical concerns, though some care, but because they're understanding second-order effects that could destroy their businesses. Here's the crisis. When subprime repos flood back, they won't go exclusively to auctions. Many will land back on Ford dealer lots as certified pre-owned or regular used inventory. Dealers will compete against their own repossessed vehicles. Trucks they originally sold to subprime buyers at inflated prices, now returning at values 30 to 40% lower. This creates catastrophic inventory glut, exactly when dealers need to move new 2026 inventory. But it worsens. Customer loyalty, the bedrock of successful dealers, is evaporating. When Sarah's truck gets repossessed after 18 months of payments at predatory rates, she doesn't just stop buying Fords. She tells everyone, her nursing colleagues, her family, her online communities. One predatory loan creates 15 to 20 damaged customer relationships through negative word of mouth. Dealers are calculating long-term brand damage, and numbers are terrifying. Several dealer groups have quietly approached Ford corporate, demanding changes to the subprime program. They've been told, in carefully worded corporate language, to focus on retail volume metrics and trust the credit risk modeling. Translation? Shut up and sell trucks. Some dealers are refusing. At least 3 multi-location dealer groups have reportedly limited participation in Ford Credit's subprime program, accepting lower sales volume rather than facilitating loans they know will end in financial disaster. But they're the minority. 2008 echoes. If you're experiencing deja vu, you should be. The parallels to 2008 financial crisis aren't coincidental. They're architectural. Predatory lending to unqualified borrowers, securitization of risky debt, short-term profit over long-term stability, financial institutions betting the music won't stop while they're dancing. But here's what makes this potentially more dangerous. In 2008, crisis was driven by multiple actors across multiple institutions, creating systemic risk through collective behavior. No single entity engineered the collapse. Ford is engineering this one deliberately. And they're not alone. Whispers from inside General Motors, Financial, and Chrysler Capital suggest similar programs are being prepared. The logic is irresistible. If Ford successfully moves inventory through subprime lending without major consequences, every manufacturer will adopt the playbook. If Ford crashes and requires bailout intervention, every manufacturer will position as victims of systemic market forces rather than architects of predatory lending, and they'll all get bailed out together. It's heads I win, tails you lose strategy, where automotive manufacturers cannot lose and consumers cannot win. Consumer protection advocates are starting to sound alarms. The Center for Responsible Lending has issued preliminary warnings about emerging patterns in auto credit markets mirroring pre-crisis risk indicators. Several state attorneys general have opened preliminary investigations into automotive lending practices, but investigations take time. Regulatory responses take longer. By the time protective measures arrive, tens of thousands of families will have been financially destroyed. Here's what should terrify anyone paying attention. 2008 required multiple systemic failures across housing, banking, and credit markets to reach catastrophic scale. Ford is compressing that entire timeline into 18 to 24 months. Brand damage is permanent. Ford's reputation isn't just damaged, it's been fundamentally rewritten. For over a century, Ford built brand identity on accessibility and reliability. The Model T that put America on wheels, the F-Series trucks that built American infrastructure, the everyman automaker prioritizing volume and value over luxury and exclusivity. That brand died the moment Ford Credit started approving $78,000 truck loans at 24% interest to borrowers who mathematically cannot afford them. Social media is exploding with anti-Ford sentiment. TikTok videos showing repossessed F-150s, YouTube channels documenting predatory lending tactics, Reddit communities sharing horror stories of destroyed credit and financial ruin. The hashtag #FordBetrayal has been used over 200,000 times in the past month alone. This isn't normal consumer criticism that fades after a recall or bad model year. This is generational brand destruction. Here's why it's different. When Ford faced past criticism, the Pinto fuel tank scandal, Explorer rollover issues, power shift transmission failures, criticism centered on product defects, mistakes in engineering or design. fine. Things that could be fixed, recalled, moved past. This is different. This is Ford deliberately exploiting financially vulnerable people for short-term profit. Conscious, calculated predatory behavior. And consumers don't forgive that. They don't forget it. They don't give second chances. Brand loyalty studies show customers will tolerate product failures if they believe company intentions are good. They will not tolerate intentional exploitation under any circumstances. Once trust breaks at that level, it never fully recovers. Ford is experiencing this real-time. F-Series sales to first-time buyers have collapsed 38% year-over-year. Every automaker learned wrong lesson. The automotive industry is watching Ford's strategy with fascination and preparing to replicate it. Behind closed boardroom doors at General Motors, Stellantis, Toyota, and even luxury brands, executives are having the same conversation. If Ford can move inventory through predatory subprime lending and survive fallout, why can't we? The incentive structure is too powerful to resist. Manufacturers sit on similar inventory gluts. Shareholders demand growth. Quarterly earnings calls require positive narratives, and Ford just handed them a playbook prioritizing short-term sales over long-term consequences. Early indicators suggest several manufacturers are already testing similar programs. GM Financial has quietly expanded credit approvals to lower-tier buyers over 3 months. Chrysler Capital has been running limited trial programs in select markets. Even Toyota Financial Services, historically conservative in lending, has loosened standards on Tundra and Tacoma inventory. This isn't coincidence. This is industry-reaching consensus that predatory lending is the solution to structural overproduction and overpricing. Here's what makes this evolution dangerous. When one manufacturer engages in predatory lending, it's contained disaster. Tens of thousands suffer. One brand's reputation collapses, but broader markets absorb shock. When the entire industry pivots toward predatory lending simultaneously, it becomes systemic crisis that could collapse the entire automotive retail model. Consumer confidence in auto purchases evaporates. The logical endpoint of the strategy Ford pioneered. Political firestorm coming. The government response to this crisis will arrive too late and go way too far. Here's what's coming. As repo rates accelerate through 2026 and consumer groups document predatory lending scale, political pressure will build for dramatic regulatory intervention. We're talking proposals that would fundamentally reshape automotive retail and financing. Progressive politicians are already drafting legislation for maximum interest rate caps on auto loans, likely 15 to 18%, regardless of credit profile. Conservative politicians will push consumer protection measures that sound good in sound bites, but create massive unintended consequences in credit markets. The result? Overcorrection that makes current problems worse. If interest rate caps pass, subprime borrowers lose financing access entirely, not because lenders are evil, but because math doesn't work. If you can't price risk appropriately through interest rates, you simply don't lend to risky borrowers. That doesn't protect consumers. It excludes them from credit markets altogether. But here's the political trap. Once repo wave crests and sob stories flood local news, politicians cannot afford to do nothing. They'll face immense pressure to do something, even if that something is economically destructive. We're likely looking at legislative packages, including interest rate caps eliminating subprime lending entirely, mandatory down payments pricing millions out of new vehicles, dealer markup restrictions compressing profit margins forcing dealer closures, manufacturer penalties for predatory lending passed to consumers in higher prices, and consumer protection bureaucracy adding weeks to vehicle purchasing. Every single measure will be sold as protecting consumers. Every single one will make vehicle ownership more difficult, expensive, and frustrating for the very people they're designed to protect. Consumer revolution already started. American car buyers are walking away from new vehicles entirely, and they're not coming back. The data is stark. New vehicle registration rates have dropped 18% year over year as of October 2025. But that's not temporary dip or cyclical correction. Consumer sentiment polling reveals something far more fundamental. 63% of Americans say they plan to keep current vehicles as long as mechanically possible, rather than purchase new. This isn't about affordability alone. This is about trust. An entire generation of buyers has concluded that new vehicle purchases are rigged against them. Inflated prices, predatory financing, immediate depreciation, and manufacturers who view customers as revenue sources to be exploited rather than relationships to be maintained. They're checking out. The used vehicle market is experiencing unprecedented demand, with 7 to 10-year-old trucks commanding prices that would have seemed insane 2 years ago. Consumers are choosing to pay premium prices for older vehicles rather than engage with new vehicle retail at all. Independent mechanics are seeing massive business increases as consumers invest in maintaining older vehicles rather than replacing them. DIY repair communities are exploding online as people learn to fix what they have rather than finance what they can't afford. Here's what should terrify auto executives. Once consumers break the habit of new vehicle purchases, they don't come back easily. The reckoning. This isn't the end of a sales cycle, it's the end of an era. The American automotive industry as we've known it for 70 years is dying. Not from technological disruption or environmental regulation or foreign competition. It's dying from self-inflicted greed and systematic betrayal of customer relationships that built the industry in the first place. Ford's predatory lending strategy is just the most visible symptom of a terminal disease. The belief that customers exist to serve manufacturers rather than the reverse. For decades, automakers operated under an implicit social contract. They built vehicles people could afford. They stood behind products. They treated customers as partners in long-term relationships rather than transactions to be maximized. In return, customers bought new vehicles regularly, maintained brand loyalty, accepted reasonable price increases. That contract is shattered, and once shattered, it cannot be repaired with marketing campaigns or executive apologies or even substantial price cuts. Trust operates on generational timelines. The customers Ford is betraying today will tell their children and grandchildren to avoid Ford. Brand loyalty that took decades to build can be destroyed in months. But here's the final revelation. This crisis was entirely predictable and entirely preventable. Ford chose this path. They chose to prioritize quarterly sales over customer relationships. They chose predatory lending rather than adjusting pricing strategy. And they're not backing down. Even now, with repos accelerating and consumer outrage building, Ford is expanding the Subprime program. If this saved you money or helped you spot a smarter deal, hit subscribe right now for weekly price breakdowns that protect your wallet before you buy.